Commander Kim Ji-won leaned against the curved glass of the observation deck, watching stars drift by like distant fireflies. The diplomatic vessel, Harmony, sliced through the darkness of space with quiet purpose. After serving 15 years, as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, Ji-won had grown accustomed to these journeys, but something felt different today. A heaviness hung in the recycled air. "Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council chamber," said Officer Bay, her voice unusually tight. Ji-won nodded and straightened the deep blue uniform jacket that marked her as humanity's voice among the stars. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the circular council chamber with its 47 seats arranged in concentric rings. Each seat held a representative from the galaxy's peaceful coalition, tall, willowy Lumerians, the crystalline bodies of the Teth, the massive six-limbed Doran delegates. For 3,000 years, this body had maintained harmony across known space. High Speaker Tull, with his characteristic silver skin that rippled like water when he spoke, stood at the center podium. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of grave concern among his kind. "Representatives of Earth," Tull began, his translator conveying his words in flat, emotionless standard. "The Council has concluded its emergency session regarding the human question." Ji-won felt her stomach tighten. There was no human question on any agenda she'd received. "By vote of 43-4, Tull continued, the Council has determined that the human species represents an existential threat to galactic stability and peaceful coexistence. As such, a state of war now exists between Earth and the united species of the Galactic Council." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, some shouting, others making noises that human ears couldn't properly process. Ji-won gripped the console before her, certain she had misheard. "High Speaker," she said, fighting to keep her voice level. "There must be some mistake. Earth has violated no treaties. We have—" "The decision is final," Tull interrupted. "Your delegation has 6 hours to depart Council space. Any human vessels remaining after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving only the shocked faces of the Harmony's bridge crew reflected in the suddenly dark screen. "That's impossible," whispered Communications Officer Han. 3,000 years of peace. Ended just like that? Ji-won's training took over as her mind raced. "Officer Park, secure all sensitive data. Officer Han, send an encrypted alert to Earth, Priority Alpha. Officer Bay, scan for any vessel movements near our position." As the crew jumped to action, Ji-won's second-in-command, Diplomat Lee Jun-ho, pulled her aside. His normally calm face was ashen. "This makes no sense," he whispered. "The Council operates on consensus. Even minor trade disputes take years to resolve. How could they vote for war without a single warning?" Ji-won shook her head. "I don't know, but we need to—" "Commander." Officer Bay's voice cut through their conversation. "I'm detecting multiple vessels breaking orbit from the Council homeworlds. Military configurations." "Show me," Ji-won ordered. The main screen displayed a tactical map of nearby space. Dozens of ships, then hundreds, were powering up across the sector. Some were massive vessels that dwarfed anything in Earth's defense fleet. "Those aren't newly built ships," Lee murmured, leaning closer to the display. "Those are warships. How long have they been hiding those?" Before Ji-won could respond, Officer Park called out from his station. "Commander, I've accessed some restricted files from the Council archive before they cut our access. You need to see this." On a side screen, construction dates scrolled past. Shipyards, weapons factories, training facilities. Some dated back nearly 50 years. "They've been preparing for this," Ji-won said, a cold realization washing over her. "While we've been sending cultural delegations and trade representatives, they've been building for war." As the Harmony broke orbit and accelerated toward the jump point that would take them home, Ji-won retreated to her quarters. She accessed the emergency protocols that every commander hoped never to use. Earth's military had become largely ceremonial over the centuries of peace. The defense fleet consisted mainly of patrol ships and disaster response vessels. Humanity had redirected its competitive energy into art, exploration, and technological innovation that benefited all species. But as Jiwan activated her secure terminal, a hidden icon appeared, one she'd been briefed on but never expected to use. Protocol, Winters, the contingency plan created by those who never fully trusted the peace. The file opened to reveal a simple message. In case of existential threat to humanity, initiate Protocol Lazarus. Jiwan pressed her palm to the scanner, authorizing the R command. Whatever Lazarus was, she hoped it would be enough. According to their best estimates, Earth had less than 2 months before the invasion force arrived. As the Harmony jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying its terrible warning home, Jiwan stared out at the streaking stars. The Council races. Thought humans had forgotten how to fight after 3 millennia of peace. What they didn't understand was that humans never forgot. They had simply chosen a different path. And now that choice had been taken from them. The announcement hit Earth like a thunderclap on a clear day. Screens everywhere broadcast the same message. After 3,000 years of peace, the Galactic Council had declared war on humanity. People gathered in streets, homes, and virtual spaces, their faces showing the same mix of disbelief and fear. In the underground levels of the United Earth Government headquarters in New Seoul, a different scene unfolded. President Kang stood before a panel that hadn't been opened in generations. With a steady hand that betrayed none of her inner turmoil, she pressed her palm against it. "Voice confirmation required," said the system. President Kang Minji authorizing Protocol Lazarus. The wall slid away to reveal a room that shouldn't exist in a peaceful civilization, a war room maintained in secret for 3 millennia by each successive government. "How long have we known this might happen?" asked Vice President Yoon, his voice barely above a whisper. "We never knew," President Kang replied, watching as dormant systems hummed to life around them. "But the founders of the peace believed we should always be prepared." The room filled quickly with the highest officials from Earth's government. Among them was Dr. Park Hyun, a quiet man most new as the lead designer of Galaxy Quest, the most popular gaming platform across known space. Few knew his actual title, Director of Strategic Preparedness. Dr. Park stepped forward, activating the central display. "For those who don't know me, I work with the Heritage Division. While civilization enjoyed peace, we kept certain knowledge alive." "You mean how to make weapons?" said someone from the back of the room. "I mean how to survive," Dr. Park corrected. "And yes, sometimes survival requires weapons, but more importantly, it requires strategy." With a gesture, he expanded the display, showing statistics that made several officials gasp. "Galaxy Quest isn't just a game," Dr. Park explained. "It's been the longest military training program in human history. For centuries, billions of humans, and yes, many aliens too, have been unwittingly participating in war games. The most successful players' strategies have been cataloged, analyzed, and refined." President Kang leaned forward. "You're saying our best generals are gamers?" "Some of them, yes," Dr. Park nodded. "People who have never seen actual combat but whose minds naturally grasp the principles of warfare. We've been tracking them for generations. As of this morning, we've begun making contact." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In a small apartment in Greater Bangkok, Chai played his morning Galaxy Quest session when his screen suddenly went dark, replaced by a simple message. "Your country needs you." Transport arriving in 30 minutes. In Nairobi, teacher Jin Sunwoo was pulled from her classroom. In Antarctica, researcher Kwon Minsu was interrupted during an ice core analysis. Meanwhile, in a facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, engineer Lee Do-hyun used an ancient access code to enter a vault untouched. For centuries, the lights flickered on automatically, revealing row upon row of data storage units. "I never thought we'd need these," Lee whispered to himself as he initiated the download sequence. The vault contained designs deemed too dangerous to share with the galaxy. Not planet killers or weapons of mass destruction. Humanity had outgrown such crude thinking, but innovations that would have given humans too significant an advantage over other species. Shields that could adapt to any weapon, materials that could repair themselves, engines that could outrun anything in known space. For 3,000 years, humans had held back, sharing only technologies that benefited everyone equally. That restraint was about to end. At a closed session of the Emergency Council, Admiral Choi briefed the leadership on their military situation. The Defense Fleet has 57 vessels capable of combat operations, he explained grimly. Based on Commander Kim's intelligence, we'll be facing thousands. Then we're doomed, said one official. Not necessarily, countered Vice Admiral Ryu, who until yesterday had been the 7-time Galaxy Quest champion on the Asian server. We don't need to match them ship for ship. We need to change the game. She stepped forward, bringing up tactical displays with movements so fluid it was clear she'd spent countless hours manipulating similar interfaces. The Council races have been building ships, yes, but they've been doing it in secret, away from their civilian populations. Their military doctrine must be pure theory, untested in real conditions for 3 millennia. We may be outnumbered, but every ship we have has been actively used for exploration, rescue missions, disaster response. Our crews know their vessels, inside and out. Across Earth and its colonies, shipyards that had been producing science vessels and luxury liners quickly retooled. The designs coming from Lee's ancient vault didn't require exotic materials or complex new technologies. They had been deliberately created to be implemented quickly if the need ever arose. In orbit, the first converted vessel prepared for its test run. The Dauntless had been a passenger liner just days before. Now its elegant hull concealed weapons and defense systems that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for thousands of years. On its bridge stood Captain Wu, formerly the Strategic Operations Manager for a shipping company. Beside him, his first officer had been a virtual archaeology professor 2 days ago. Nervous? Captain Wu asked, noticing how his officer kept adjusting her uniform. Terrified, she admitted. Yesterday I was grading papers on ancient Earth cultures. Today I'm helping test a warship. Wu nodded. I keep expecting to wake up, but then I remember what's at stake. As the Dauntless powered up its newly installed engines, President Kang addressed the people of Earth from the old war room. For 3,000 years we chose peace. We limited our potential to maintain harmony. That choice has now been made for us by others. We have 2 months before their fleets arrive, and they expect to find us unprepared. They're wrong. Across the globe, people who had never imagined warfare worked around the clock. Scientists implemented designs they barely understood. Factory workers built components for systems they couldn't name. The sleeping giant was awakening, not with a roar of bloodlust, but with the quiet, determined focus that had always been humanity's true strength. The warning came 3 hours before they arrived. Earth's long-range sensors, hastily upgraded with technology pulled from the ancient vaults, detected the first wave of the Council fleet exiting faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit. 57 vessels, reported the sensor officer, aboard the Earth Defense Command Station. Heavy cruiser configuration, weapons hot. Admiral Song Minho stared at the tactical display, his face illuminated by the holographic projection of the incoming ships. 2 months ago, he had been simply known as Blackstorm, the undisputed champion of Galaxy Quest's tactical combat scenarios. Now he wore a real uniform with real responsibility for billions of lives. They're heading for the orbital habitats, he observed. Just as we predicted, the Council's strategy seemed obvious. Target the civilian habitats ringing Earth to force a quick surrender. It was the logical first move against a supposedly peaceful species unwilling to sacrifice innocent lives. Status of the habitats? Admiral Song asked. Evacuated, sir, came the reply. Last transport departed 6 hours ago. Defense systems are online and waiting for your command. Admiral Song nodded. And the fleet? In position behind the moon, powered down as ordered. For a brief moment, doubt crossed the Admiral's face. Everything rested on this first encounter. On whether his gaming scenarios would translate to real combat. On whether the hastily assembled defense fleet could function, as planned. On whether the Council forces would react as predicted. Send to all ships, he said finally. Operation Sleeping Dragon is now active. Phase 1, commence. Aboard the lead council vessel, Fleet Commander Zal of the Doran watched Earth grow larger in the view screen. His 6 limbs moved confidently across the control surfaces as he directed the assault formation. "Time to weapons range?" he asked. 4 minutes, Commander." His second replied. No response from the human defenses. Their communications remain open but silent. Zal's mouth parts clicked in their species' approximation of a satisfied smile. As expected, their sensors must have detected us, yet they mount no defense. Perhaps they hope to negotiate even now. "Commander," interrupted the sensor officer, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the orbital habitats." "Civilian power systems going to emergency protocols," Zal dismissed. "They know we're coming." "No, sir. These readings are..." The officer never finished his sentence. Across the view screen, the nearest habitat erupted with blinding light. Not an explosion, something else. A pulse that washed over the front line of council ships. "Report," Zal demanded as warning signals flared across his bridge. Weapons offline, communications down. The pulse was some kind of targeted electromagnetic weapon. Zal slammed a limb against his console. "Switch to backup systems. Order the second wave to..." But the order couldn't be transmitted. Every communication frequency the council fleet used was suddenly flooded with noise. Complex shifting patterns that adapted whenever their systems tried to filter them out. From behind Earth's moon, the human defense fleet emerged. Just 40 ships against the Council's first wave of 57, but they moved with surprising coordination, targeting the now communications-blind Council vessels one by one. Aboard the human flagship Defiance, Admiral Song directed the battle, with the calm precision that had made him legendary in Galaxy Quest. The ship had been a scientific research vessel 8 weeks ago. Now it led humanity's first military engagement in 3 millennia. "They're trying to re-establish communications on the secondary bands," reported Communications Officer Kang. "Implementing countermeasures now." Admiral Song nodded. His years in Galaxy Quest had taught him that communication was always the weakest point in any coordinated fleet action. The Council races had built impressive ships with devastating weapons, but they hadn't fought a real enemy in thousands of years. Their communications protocols were theoretical, never tested under fire. "Focus fire on targets 3 and 7, he ordered. They're their command ships based on energy signature. The Defiance's weapons, energy projectors retrofit into what had once been atmospheric sampling arrays, lanced out across space, joined by fire from 3 other vessels. The Council ship's shields flared and held, but just barely. "Keep pressure on those targets," Song instructed. "All ships maintain evasive pattern delta." The human vessels moved in seemingly random patterns that were anything but random. Another lesson from Galaxy Quest, where Admiral Song had discovered that certain movement algorithms were particularly difficult for targeting computers to predict. His private channel, Captain Yun of the converted liner Aurora, spoke urgently. "Admiral, Council reinforcements just appeared at the edge of the system. At least 70 more ships." Admiral Song had expected this. "Proceed to Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, automated probes suddenly activated, sending out signals, identical to human warships. To the Council's sensors, it would appear that hundreds of Earth vessels were powering up across multiple locations. They won't know which signatures are real and which are decoys," Song explained to his bridge crew. "They'll have to split their forces." Back on the Council flagship, now damaged and drifting with only partial power, Fleet Commander Zal watched, in growing horror as his carefully planned assault disintegrated into chaos. Half his ships couldn't communicate with each other. Several were already crippled by surprisingly precise human attacks, and now sensors showed human vessels appearing everywhere. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of no one in particular. "They shouldn't have this technology. They shouldn't have these tactics." His sensor officer, struggling with equipment that kept showing impossible readings, finally looked up. "Sir, I don't think those are all real ships. I think we're being tricked." But it didn't matter if it was a trick or not. Without coordination, the Council fleet couldn't determine which threats were real. Ships began breaking formation, either pursuing phantom targets or clustering together defensively, exactly as Admiral Song had hoped. Their clustering, reported the Defiance's tactical officer, moving into mutual support position. Admiral Song allowed himself a small smile. Just like the Tarkonian defense scenario in Galaxy Quest, Launch Phase 3. From Earth's orbit, small, fast drones deployed by the thousands. Each carried a minimal weapon payload, just enough to damage a ship's exterior sensors. They swarmed toward the clustered council vessels like angry insects. Aboard his crippled flagship, Zal watched the approaching swarm with disbelief. "Evasive action," he ordered, but the tightly packed formation couldn't maneuver quickly enough. The drones struck with precision, targeting sensor arrays and communication dishes. They weren't trying to destroy the council ships, just blind them. 3 hours after the battle began, Admiral Song gave the order to cease fire. The first wave of the council fleet hung in space, not destroyed, but thoroughly defeated. Some ships drifted powerless, while others maintained minimal systems. None posed a threat anymore. "Send to all council vessels on all frequencies," Admiral Song ordered. "This is Admiral Song Minho of Earth Defense. Your attack has failed. You may retrieve your damaged vessels and withdraw beyond the solar system. Any further hostile action will be met with proportional response." As the message went out, he turned to his second-in-command. "How many casualties?" "Remarkably few, sir. The council ships focused mainly on disabling our vessels rather than destroying them. It seems they're not accustomed to fighting to the death either." Admiral Song nodded solemnly. "Good. Let's keep it that way if we can." The Battle of Earth orbit would later be recognized as the turning point, the moment when the galaxy realized that 3,000 years of peace hadn't made humanity forget how to defend itself. It had just given them time to think of better ways to fight. But as Admiral Song watched the defeated council ships slowly retreat, he took no joy in the victory. The real war was just beginning, and the next engagement wouldn't be won so easily. The council would adapt, just as humans had. The real question remained unanswered. Why had they attacked in the first place? The council ship hung disabled in space, its once elegant hull now scarred by battle. Commander Kim Ji-won studied it from the bridge of the stealth vessel Phantom, a ship that shouldn't exist, built with technology Earth had kept hidden for centuries. "Are you sure about this?" asked Lieutenant Yeo, her normally confident voice tinged with concern. "There are safer ways to get information." Commander Kim adjusted the tactical vest that felt strangely heavy after years of wearing only diplomatic uniforms. "We've intercepted enough communications to know that whatever drove the council to war is kept classified at the highest levels. We need their central database, and this command ship has access." The plan was dangerous but simple. Board the crippled council vessel, access its secure databanks, and extract whatever information they could find about the true reasons behind the war. With Earth's orbital defenses holding and the council forces temporarily pushed back, this brief window might be their only chance. "Boarding team ready, Commander," reported Sergeant Jin through the comms. 6 soldiers waited in the airlock, all of them, like Jin, former security personnel who had never expected to fight a real war. Commander Kim nodded. "Remember, we're not there to engage unless absolutely necessary. Get me to their data center, cover me while I work, then we leave." The journey across the void between ships took only minutes, but to Kim it felt like hours. The magnetic boots of her suit clanked against the hull of the council vessel as the team assembled around a maintenance airlock. "Security systems are fried from the EMP," whispered tech specialist Han as he worked on the exterior panel. "But life support is still functioning inside." With a soft hiss, the airlock opened. The boarding team moved through the dimly lit corridors of the alien ship with practiced precision, another benefit of the countless hours spent in Galaxy Quest simulations. They encountered no resistance. Most of the crew had evacuated to other vessels after the battle. The command center was eerily quiet when they reached it. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across abandoned stations. At the center of the room, a holographic display still flickered weakly, showing the devastation of the Council's first wave fleet. "Over there," Commander Kim pointed. "That's their secure data terminal." While Sergeant Jin's team secured the perimeter, Tech specialist Han helped Kim bypass the terminal's security measures. Years of diplomatic service had given Kim access to Council communication protocols. Access she'd never imagined using this way. "I'm in," she said finally, "downloading everything I can access." The files were enormous. Tactical assessments, fleet movements, communication logs. But one file stood out labeled simply, Human Containment Initiative. Kim opened it first. What she saw made her blood run cold. "Commander, we've got company," Sergeant Jin warned through the comms. "Council, recovery team docking on the far side of the ship." "5 more minutes," Kim replied, eyes fixed on the screen as report after report scrolled by. "I need 5 more minutes." The documents told a story that made no sense at first. Detailed studies of human neural structure compared to other species. Analysis of human cultural evolution over 3,000 years. Projections of technological development curves. And finally, the conclusion that had doomed Earth to war. "They're afraid of us," Kim whispered. "What?" asked Han beside her. "The Council. This isn't about resources or territory or ideology." She pointed to the screen where a simulation showed human advancement compared to other species. "It's about evolution. While every other species in the galaxy reached a kind of equilibrium during the peace, humans kept changing. The report showed how human neural pathways had continued to adapt and grow more complex over millennia. How human social structures had evolved in ways no other species had predicted. How human technology, even when restricted by Council treaties, developed along paths no other race had explored. Their models predict that within 50 years humans would become the dominant species in the galaxy, not through war, but through natural development. We'd surpass them all combined. Han stared at the screen. "So they attacked us first as a preventative measure." "Commander, we're out of time." Jin's urgent voice came through the comms. "Council forces are moving through the ship. We need to leave now." Kim downloaded the last files as her team prepared for extraction, but as they moved through the corridors toward their extraction point, they encountered 3 Council security officers, tall, willowy Lumerians who raised their weapons in surprise. Before either side could fire, Kim stepped forward, hands raised. "Wait. I know why you're fighting us. I've seen the reports." The lead Lumerian hesitated, his large eyes blinking rapidly. "Then you understand why this is necessary. Your kind cannot be allowed to what? Evolve, grow," Kim interrupted. "You started this war not because we're a threat now, but because you're afraid of what we might become." "The simulations are clear," the Lumerian replied, weapons still raised. "Within a generation, humans would outpace all Council races in cognitive development. And that terrifies you," Kim said softly, "because none of your species has significantly evolved in thousands of years." A strange silence fell in the corridor. Kim could see confusion in the alien faces. They hadn't expected understanding. "The war was our only choice," the Lumerian said finally. "The projections showed projections aren't destiny," Kim countered. "Did your models account for cooperation? For sharing what we learn? For rising together?" Before the Lumerian could answer, an explosion rocked the ship. The recovery mission had turned into a battle elsewhere on the vessel. "Let us go," Kim said, urgently. "Take this data to your leaders." She transferred a copy of the files to the Lumerian's device. "We can find another way." Whether it was confusion, curiosity, or some flicker of doubt, the Lumerian lowered his weapon and stepped aside. Kim and her team rushed past, making it to their extraction point just as Council reinforcements flooded the ship. Back aboard the Phantom as they accelerated away from the battle zone, Lieutenant Yeo asked the question they were all thinking. "What will you do with this information?" Commander Kim stared at the data core containing the terrible truth. "Take it to Earth leadership. They need to understand, this isn't a war we can win through force alone." Within hours of their return to Earth, an emergency council convened in the underground command center. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials gathered to review Commander Kim's findings. Admiral Song paced the room after watching the presentation. "So we're not fighting because of what we've done, But because of what we might become? Essentially, yes, Kim confirmed. Their models show human neural development and social complexity increasing at an exponential rate compared to other species. They see it as an extinction-level threat to their way of life. The room erupted in debate. Some military leaders saw this as vindication, proof that humanity deserved to dominate. Others saw it as an opportunity to negotiate from a position of newfound strength. President Kang finally raised her hand for silence. We have a choice to make. Do we prove them right about us by crushing them now that we know their weakness? Or do we prove them wrong by finding a path that lifts all species together? The question hung in the air as Commander Kim added one final piece of information. There's something else you should know. 4 council species voted against the war. 4 out of 47 chose to believe that humanity's evolution might benefit everyone. 4 allies, murmured Dr. Park thoughtfully. That's where we start. As the council debated long into the night, Earth's defense forces continued to hold the line against council attacks. But the nature of the conflict had fundamentally changed. Now they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to determine what kind of species humanity would become. The terrible truth wasn't just that the council feared human potential. It was that their fear might be justified if humans chose the wrong path forward. The plan was either brilliant or insane. Most of Earth's leadership couldn't decide which. In the war room beneath New Seoul, Admiral Song stared at the holographic display of Operation Synthesis as if willing it to make more sense the longer he looked. You want us to do what? He finally asked, breaking the stunned silence that had fallen over the assembled leaders. Commander Kim Ji-won stood her ground. After infiltrating the council ship and discovering the true reason for the war, she had spent weeks formulating this response alongside Dr. Park, Engineer Lee, and a select team of Earth's brightest minds. We're proposing that instead of continuing this conflict, we demonstrate what human evolution actually means, she explained. Not as a threat, but as a gift. By saving their worlds, President Kang clarified, her expression thoughtful. The same people trying to destroy us? Dr. Park stepped forward, activating another section of the display. We've identified 3 immediate opportunities. First, the Lumerian homeworld is experiencing unprecedented solar flares that their technology can't fully shield against. Second, the Teth crystal colonies in the Anteri system are suffering from a structural degradation their engineers can't solve. And third, the Doran, the most aggressive of our enemies, have been hiding a medical crisis for nearly a decade. The display showed the details of each situation, problems that the council races had been unable to solve despite their advanced civilizations. And you think we can fix these problems? Admiral Song asked skeptically. Engineer Lee nodded confidently. We already have the solutions. Remember, our science didn't stop during the peace years, we just focused it differently. The solar shield technology we developed for our Mercury colonies can be adapted for the Lumerian world. The self-healing structural materials in our deep space habitats would stabilize the Teth colonies. And as for the Doran disease, Dr. Park picked up where Lee left off. It's similar to a neurological condition we cured 2 centuries ago. Their physiology is different, but the principle is the same. President Kang leaned forward, eyes narrowed. So instead of using our hidden technologies to destroy them, you want to save them with it? Exactly, Commander Kim confirmed. We show them what human evolution really looks like. Not conquest, but solution finding. Not domination, but synthesis. The debate raged for hours. Some military leaders argued that this approach showed weakness. Others worried about revealing too many of Earth's technological secrets. But in the end, a simple question from an unlikely source tipped the scales. What are we fighting for? Asked Captain Wu, who had commanded the Dauntless in Earth's first defensive battle. To prove them wrong about us or to prove them right? 3 days later, Operation Synthesis launched. While Earth's defensive fleet maintained its protective perimeter around the solar system, 3 specialized task forces departed under flags of truce. Each carried not weapons but solutions. The Lumerian government initially rejected Earth's approach, believing it to be some kind of trick. But as their sun's activity increased and their protective shields began to fail, desperation overcame suspicion. When the human vessels deployed massive orbital deflectors that immediately reduced the solar radiation reaching their planet, the Lumerian High Council requested a meeting. "We don't understand," said First Speaker Illith, her delicate features rigid with confusion as she met with the human delegation. "Why would you help us while we are at war?" "Because that's what humans do," replied Dr. Park simply. "We solve problems. It's how we evolved." The Teth were more receptive from the start. Their crystalline bodies housed consciousness in structures that had begun to degrade for reasons they couldn't determine. When Engineer Lee's team introduced the self-repairing nanomaterials that could reinforce their failing colonies, the Teth Elder Council immediately withdrew from the conflict. "Your evolution is not what we were led to believe," the Teth Elder told Lee through their translator. "We were told humans would consume and conquer. Instead, you repair." The Doran proved the most challenging. As the physically largest and most traditionally warlike of the Council races, they had led the charge against Earth. Their pride would not allow them to accept help openly. Commander Kim had anticipated this. "Don't offer it to their military," she instructed the medical team before they departed. "Offer it to their caregivers. Find those who suffer, not those who fight." The strategy worked. While Doran battleships continued to probe Earth's defenses, human medical teams quietly made contact with civilian medical facilities on Doran colony worlds. The neurological treatment they brought ended years of suffering for thousands. Word spread quickly through the Doran communication networks, faster than military sensors could contain it. Within weeks, protests erupted across Doran space, not against humans, but against their own military leadership for continuing a war against a species that was freely offering healing. As the Council's war effort began to fracture from within, Admiral Song saw the opportunity they had been waiting for. "It's time for the final phase," he told President Kang. "While they're off balance, we make our move on the Council chamber itself. Earth's fastest ships, equipped with the stealth technology that had remained hidden for millennia, slipped past the Council's defensive lines. Their target was not the military installations or government centers, but the Council chamber itself, the symbolic heart of the 3,000-year peace. When the Council leaders arrived for their emergency session to discuss the fracturing alliance, they found the chamber already occupied. Admiral Song, Commander Kim, Dr. Park, and Engineer Lee stood at the central podium unarmed. "How did you get in here?" demanded High Speaker Tull, his silver skin rippling with alarm. "The same way we could have at any point during the last 1,000 years," Admiral Song replied calmly. "But we chose not to." Before the Council security forces could act, Engineer Lee activated a device. The chamber's central display came to life, showing not battle plans but the results of Operation Synthesis. Lumerian cities now safe from solar radiation, Teth colonies stabilized, Doran citizens recovering from a once incurable disease. "Feared our evolution," Commander Kim said, addressing the stunned Council members. "Your models predicted we would surpass you and threaten your way of life. But your models failed to account for the most important aspect of human development." Dr. Park stepped forward. "We don't evolve alone. We evolve through connection, through synthesis of ideas, through cooperation." He gestured to the display, which now showed historical records of human development. "Our greatest advancements have always come not through competition, but through collaboration, not through domination, but through diversity of thought. You wanted to contain us," Engineer Lee added, "to prevent us from becoming what you feared. But in doing so, you would have contained yourselves as well. Cut yourselves off from what we might become together." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was High Speaker Tull who finally spoke. "The war was a mistake," he admitted, his translator unable to fully capture the complex emotions in his voice. "A terrible mistake born of fear." "Fear is understandable," Commander Kim replied. "But there are better responses to fear than destruction." In the days that followed, the Galactic Council formally ended hostilities with Earth. The 4 species that had originally voted against the war acted as mediators in the peace process. Earth's representatives insisted on only one condition: that the Council be reformed as a true collaborative body, not just a means of maintaining stagnant equilibrium. 6 months after the first Council ships had appeared in Earth's solar system, President Kang addressed the newly formed Galactic Assembly, the successor to the old Council, with new principles and purpose. "We stand at the beginning of a new era," she told the representatives of all 48 species, humanity now included as full members. Not Pax Galactica, a peace maintained through careful balance and limitation, but Pax Humana, a peace driven by constant growth and shared evolution. She gestured to where Admiral Song, Commander Kim, Dr. Park, and Engineer Lee sat among Earth's delegation. These individuals, and countless others, showed us that humanity's true strength was never our capacity for war. It was our ability to see beyond conflict to possibility. Our evolution continues, not alone, but together with all who wish to join us. As the assembly erupted in applause, Commander Kim looked around at the chamber where, not long ago, war had been declared on her species. She caught the eye of a young Lumarian diplomat who nodded respectfully. Perhaps the Council's fears hadn't been entirely wrong, Kim reflected. Humans were indeed changing the galaxy forever, just not in the way anyone had predicted. The peace that followed would not be perfect. There would be struggles and setbacks, misunderstandings and mistakes, but it would be alive, growing, adapting, evolving, just like the humans who had helped create it. And that made all the difference.